Here in Dubai, the opportunities are endless. Just follow up and have conversations with every single person that I met.
Networking for me is huge. Putting those connections is vital to me. I use LinkedIn as the source of detail, and I make sure that I have stories that are relevant to those people and to their business and what they're looking for. So the people that think they can come into this market very quickly and take that revenue, they're wrong. And I've seen it with my own eyes.
I was almost in culture shock. Even interviews, they're all done in person.
And then they were just having a conversation.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, she's got an interview at Deloitte from just kind of connecting in the playground. So these connections can happen anywhere at any time. And I think you just kind of have to have that kind of mindset to just go for it.
There has to be an action point from the moment you meet someone where you have a vision. What's the next step?
At that page, reduce it like a sauce, like really make it your secret sauce. And it should be a paragraph.
What is it about a first interaction or a good conversation that sets someone apart where you think, yeah, this person is worth advocating for, worth backing?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of For Those Made to Do. We're really, really excited today to continue a series that we started last time. So if you didn't catch our last episode, please make sure you go and listen to it. It's full of great insights on how you can get a great job in Dubai. And today, for part 2, we're zooming in on how to network efficiently and proficiently in this region, because we talk a lot about networking all the time. We tell everyone how important it is to build a network and to lean on it when you're looking for your next step in the career, but we haven't yet had a chance to hear a great story about it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to discuss what you need to do to meet the right person at the right time, to introduce yourself in the right way, to make the impact that you need in order to gain a mentor and an advocate in your job search. And we're going to hear the story firsthand from our first guest, Faiza, who is one of our current students at Hult International Business School. She's our executive MBA student. She's doing her master's in business. And she came to our career fair a few months ago. And that's where she met Matthew, who works for Salesforce. And he was there to look for talent. And the two of them met by fate, really, really liked each other. And a few months later, Faiza's got a new job, and Matthew's here to tell us everything about what went on behind the scenes, how he made it happen, how he advocated for her. So let me just introduce our guests properly. So Faiza is currently an account executive at Clouds Lab. So welcome, Faiza. Great to have you here today.
Thank you.
And Matthew is the regional director for alliances and channels at Salesforce Middle East. He's one of our longstanding partners. And we're really excited to get you both here today to tell us the story. But first of all, how are you both doing this morning?
How's it going?
Amazing. It's been a great Monday morning so far. Just recovered from a long weekend. So yeah, it's been great so far.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So as Bianca mentioned, our topic's all about networking, and we really consider ourselves connectors in our role. We're always thinking about how we can kind of pair like-minded people together. And a lot of that is based on intuition once we get to know people. So uniquely in this region, we say that there's always at least 2 degrees of separation because the region is small enough that you can connect with people quite easily. So with that in mind, when thinking about how networking is done right, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So from my perspective, when it comes to networking, there are plenty of different angles to look at how to go about it. In terms of how it's done right, for me personally, is taking that second step. And what I mean by that is when you first meet someone, it's very easy to exchange LinkedIn or exchange your contact information, but then it's very difficult to continue that conversation. So for me personally, it's all about the following up with people, reaching back out to them and saying, hey, let's go ahead and grab a coffee. Because if you think about it, you meet so many people. And although it may be a little bit tedious to go through each and every one, it's definitely worth it in the end.
Awesome. And what about you, Matthew?
Yeah, well, I mean, I use LinkedIn a hell of a lot. So going back to the first, I meet a lot of people, and it depends on what the networking is for. So it could be, well, I'm meeting as part of the University Trailblazer program, I'm meeting students and trying to link them with my partner network. It could be actually with the partners themselves. It could be with fellow colleagues coming in from the US, and it could be end customers. So it's a very different in terms of networking. My role running the Middle East partner network, it's very much about how are they working? How can they work as efficiently as possible? And getting the right talent in is a huge part of that. So if I look at the talent that we've got in our partners at the moment, they are like at the top of their game because they're working for a very, very good partner, and they're working with Salesforce, number one CRM in the world. So they're very good at what they do, but it's all about people. And actually linking the right people. So networking for me is huge. Putting those connections is vital to me. I use LinkedIn as the source of detail, and I make sure that I have stories that are relevant to those people and to their business and what they're looking for.
I think that's an innate trait as well, isn't it? Because so our story, we used to work together in London, and then Bianca kind of left for 2 years and went in a different direction. And then I brought her back to come and work with me here in Dubai. And I'm glad that we've had that experience every single day. But when she kind of came back into my orbit, one thing that came to me was that I was like, Bianca, you're such a good connector. And that's why we always kind of push this term. I'd say you also fit in this category because when we met you the first time, this is the thing that I kind of noticed in you as well, that you were like, I know this person. Let me connect you with this person. And this person's going to be really suitable for that. And this is kind of like how our mindsets work every day on how we can kind of pair these two things together. So it's really great that you kind of share that story. Okay, so moving on. So every kind of career turning point begins with the first encounter. So can you take us back to that moment when your paths first crossed, and what made it stand out from just an ordinary introduction?
Yeah. So, well, it's a very interesting story, actually. And the reason we're here today is because this story is so good. Because the perfect scenario, for me personally, is to link great talent with my partner network and get them jobs. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that really, at the stage of my career, having coming through the career, now at a stage now where I really want to give back more so than actually doing it myself, although I'm obviously doing it day to day. But I get a lot of buzz from sort of giving back now. So whether it's tutoring or mentoring, etc. So we met at Hult Careers Fair. It was the first one that we had done at Salesforce. And it was very well put together. And I went there with actually a couple of colleagues, Christina and Marion from my team. One is a solution engineer and one is running part of our sales channel. And we met Faiza, who came in, and we did a quick, it was like a 30 second, 1 minute, sort of quick fire questions. And when she left the room, we were like, wow, this is a standout, this is a standout candidate. We need to get her back. We all said it to each other. We said, let's get her back. So Mariam ran out, got her back. She came in. We said, listen, I can get you a job. I think I said to you, I will have you a job, or I'll have you a job interview by the end of the week. And then the rest is history. But I'll let you tell the story from then on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that. So from my point of view, I was just, at Hult, at the business school, attending the careers fair, just kind of like mixing and mingling with people. And to be completely honest, I didn't have an agenda in mind when I first got there in the morning. And so it was really just like, okay, I'll just network with, whoever I kind of run into. And I do remember there were a lot of other students too. So I didn't even get around to having a conversation with too many people. So I was just walking past Salesforce. And I mean, coming from the States where Salesforce is also very big, I naturally just walked into the room, sat down and met Matthew, Christina, and Marion. We spoke for a few seconds, and I, in that moment, didn't think much of it. I just, after about a minute of conversation, got up, walked out, and I was actually just standing with a group of people, just having a conversation a few minutes after that. And I heard someone calling my name. So I turned around and it was Marion, and she was like, we'd like to have you back in the room, please. And so then I sat down, and then I think we chatted for almost 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's when we finally just dove into like my history. Matthew just told me more about them too as Salesforce, and landed a role as an account executive at Clouds Lab. We are a implementation partner of Salesforce. So we help with the implementation of the solutions purchased from Salesforce, the data migration, and then any sort of consulting and support services thereafter. And absolutely loving it. I always have told myself that no matter what I do, I want to be in a client-facing role. So that was very important to me. And I think I may have even shared that with Matthew when I first met him. But that was kind of just the gist of it from the beginning. So it has been really nice and really interesting just trying to unpack how business is done here in the Middle East, because it is very different than the States.
Yeah.
And let me just unpick that a little bit more for a bit more detail. So when we meet a candidate, and we knew straight away, right? So there's an immediate gut feel. We all had the gut feel. So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But you don't know.
Yeah.
So is the candidate educated? Obviously, they are at university, so they've got the degree, etc. But how do they come across? How do they present themselves? Huge factor, because it's all about people, as I always say. And then the mechanics of that was when we decided that we liked Faiza, we basically, I then went away and I look after our top 10 strategic partners very closely. And these are people like Klaus Lab and Coburg and Connex and Horizontal, etc. And these are very like the top players in our space. And so all I did was I said to Faiza, I said, if you get me your CV, your cover letter, and the cover letter has to be the secret sauce, I'll come back to that, and your Trailhead. I want you to go onto Trailhead over the weekend, learn Trailhead, which is our online university, free of charge. If you do those 3 things, I'll get you interviews on Monday morning. Sure enough, she did it. Monday morning, I had it in my inbox. I had everything I wanted. So I was like, perfect. Another tick box. Sent it to my guy, said, listen, you need to interview this girl. 100% one of you will take her on. And I said, it's then up to you guys. And I think it was Horizontal interviewed you, maybe Connex and the Klaus Lab. And then Klaus Lab put the offer in first. So Klaus Lab really won for me in this story. But I have other examples of where we work with other universities, where other partners have also taken on clients. So it's very interesting story about the mechanics behind it. It's all about, so it's my relationship with those partners to say, you need to meet this person. Them saying, yes, okay, we will meet this person, and doing it quickly.
So there's a couple of things there. So first of all, it's your willingness to advocate.
Yeah.
And then also it's the momentum.
Absolutely.
As well, that you mentioned earlier about the follow-up, because I think that part is integral, because you then landed Monday morning in Matthew's inbox, top of the pile. It's fresh in his mind. I feel like carrying that momentum goes such a long way.
Yeah.
That's huge, by the way. That was huge, because so many students don't do that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's be honest.
But and even beyond that, I think with networking situations, when you go and you meet someone, not through a referral, you go to an event or you see someone on a panel and you connect, and the question of what is effective networking starts because you've exchanged business cards. Does that mean you've networked and you're going to do something together? No, there has to be an action point from the moment you meet someone where you have a vision. I don't think anyone who does networking well goes and talks to people just for the sake of talking to people. I think that works a little bit at the beginning to try and feel the landscape and understand who's in the room. But the moment you've had a few initial conversations, you start understanding what's my opportunity here in creating something bigger with someone in this room. And once you identify that person, you have that initial conversation. Then when you end your conversation with them, there has to be an action point. What's the next step? Yeah. And then very critically, like Mandy said, there has to be follow through on that next step. Because if there isn't, you've lost the connection, and also you've made a promise that you've not kept now. So not only have you lost an opportunity to grow, but you've also potentially lost the connection for the future. If you come across that person again in 3 months' time and they see you and they remember, oh, you said you were going to text me about this. And like, then the trust is broken. So you've actually just caused more damage. So I think there's something really important that I would like our audience to retain from the idea of networking. It's not transactional. It's meant to be about making impact together. It's a partnership, and it involves seeking the opportunity and also following through on the opportunity, being very clear about what the agreement is. I think both of you have done that incredibly well, and that's why it's worked.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's all about the candidate, right? It's all about, in this situation, it's all about Pfizer, because she came in and did that activity. And I always say to people, carpe diem, that's my motto, seize the day.
Yeah.
Like, just take the moment. The world is littered with stories of like, well, I could have done that, I should have done that. Just do it. Just get up and do it.
And it's interesting that you mentioned, you don't want to make that promise and then not follow through, because in turn you lose credibility. And I will say Dubai and even the Middle East, although it's big, it's also very small. And you may run into that person. It's actually very highly likely that you will run into that person again. And then, they may look at you like, hey, you didn't follow through with what you had to do. So when Matthew asked me to do, which in my opinion was quite, a very simple upfront task, I immediately knew that I had to do it. I was actually going to Abu Dhabi that weekend, and I was on Trailhead like all weekend.
Yeah, weird. Fabulous.
That's commitment.
Yeah. It's good.
So you mentioned something earlier about cover letters, and when you're spotting talent, because I think you are quite a people-orientated person, it's not just always about the CV, that document. It's not always about your LinkedIn. Outside of the documentation, what is it about a first interaction or a good conversation that sets someone apart where you think, this person is worth advocating for, worth backing?
Yeah. So let's be very clear. CVs don't excite me at all. And I can pretty much get all my information from LinkedIn anyway. But it's got to be, I do quite like a quick, concise CV. Yeah, a one-page ideally, maybe with a photo, maybe not, something that sets you apart from somebody else. The cover letter for me is the crucial one, because I say to everyone, like, take that page, reduce it like a sauce, like really make it like your secret sauce, and it should be a paragraph. And it's like, get rid of all the waffle. Know the role that you're going for. And if in Faiza's case, you didn't know what the role per se, other than it was going to be people, probably account exec, right? So she knew that, but she encapsulated that in the paragraph, which shows me that she's understood what the role is and how she can add her secret sauce to my role. And then really it's about resonating with someone. So tell me something that's going to resonate with me that makes you stand out from everybody else. Okay, so if you tell me a story or a likeness or some connection, you and I we resonate because we knew some people that knew each other, and that's our connection, right? Yeah. And so that's our reference point. So I now remember that when I see you, I remember that, and it's just a little thing, but it's actually a big thing, because that's how I remember you. And I remember the Birmingham connection and the relative, and it's the brother-in-law, and that sort of thing, and it's vital, absolutely vital in a very busy world. Vital.
Yeah. I think it's that, and we mentioned this in the last episode as well. It's that kind of principle of like affiliation. It's like is going to anchor someone in remembering you and setting yourself apart. And you mentioned this kind of concept of secret sauce, which I really like. So I teach a lot of this stuff at Hult in class. Faiza knows, and I'm pushing authenticity as far as I can push it.
Yes.
And in the age of AI, where you can say, Matthew from Salesforce, LinkedIn profile, 1 paragraph, 200 words, create something.
Yeah.
If you were to receive that, an AI message, 1 paragraph long, just speak through your first reactions, first of all, and then how you would react to it. Because I think people do need to kind of hear that actually this is not what people want on the other end.
But how would I know, by the way, as well?
You would be able to tell.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like sometimes you can really tell, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah. Also.
I mean, I'm literally wowed by the AI. I've got to be honest with you. And we're using just a snippet of it. The really intelligent people are using it to change the world, really. But we're using it for like you say, a CV summary or a business summary or something summary. I basically judge the person when I speak to them or I see them. That's a test for me. It's not what I'm reading on paper. And like I go back to my point about the CV. The CV for me, right, you've got a degree. Good. That tells me that you've put those years in. That's all that tells me. Could be in any sort of study. You could be the top or the bottom of your thing. You could have messed about, been really diligent. I don't know that yet from a CV. I get a feel when I see the people, what sort of person that they are.
Which brings me to Faiza, because I'm trying to understand what part of your authenticity appealed to Matthew. So when you walked into that room, and like you said, you were just trying to see who's there and just have some conversations. I think you were very authentically yourself, and this is how you usually come across. Back to what Mandy said, living in the age of AI, everyone wants a script, and a lot of the younger generations are just looking for a step-by-step guide to do pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about the power of authenticity in networking that is helping you now, even in your day-to-day job as well?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. When it comes to authenticity, there's only so much you can fake it. And people will try to put on a mask. They will try to mold themselves into a specific role, and then they will end up not succeeding. And so that's why being authentic and really just showing yourself as an individual really matters. When it comes back to my interaction with Matthew, I think that in terms of being authentic, I kind of just walked in and had a conversation. I hadn't looked at his LinkedIn. I hadn't looked at even the Salesforce website, which, I mean, I definitely could have been a little bit more prepared for the conversation in that context. But I kind of just sat down and had a conversation. And what I did not do was just sit there and tell him about my CV. I didn't tell him, what I studied in the States and where I worked and then what I'm doing here in Dubai. I gave him an overview of those things for sure. But then I also just told him about me as an individual, my life, where I'm from, where I was raised, my family, etc. And I think that may have been something that resonated. And I'm sure you could speak to that a little more.
Yeah. I mean, authenticity, like you say, you can't fake authenticity. And it's funny, actually, when I joined Salesforce, I thought I had to be much more serious because it's, big corporate, number one CRM globally. And I tried to put a serious persona on for a while. And then eventually it just fades away because you are who you are. You know what I mean? I'm a high energy, enthusiastic, et cetera. And that's worked for me in my whole career. So why would you change it? And now actually with work, I get to do a lot of great things because of that. Like on our stage when we do presentations and we go around the region, they always get me to speak, et cetera. And I love it. But it's about the people that you're meeting. So going back to the point that we were talking about in terms of the CV or AI or how you present yourselves, when you get people talking about themselves, that is the acid test. So a couple of open questions, and then that person will naturally will show their hand. Mm-hmm. And if I think about going back to your careers fair, the Hult careers fair, we met about 30 candidates that day, 30 students. Okay. And 2 or 3 stood out for me. And one and we employed one, and we've actually interviewed 2 more. Okay, as a result. So the 3 that we liked, we've gone down the route with. The other 27 or whatever the number was, lovely people, all got great, but it didn't come across for me.
There is a right opportunity for every person out there.
Yes.
A lot of the times what I see with people who are preparing for an interview or preparing for a big networking event is they're rehearsing a script. And part of that is good because we're giving them the tools, the elevator pitch and, how to start a conversation, how to maintain it. That's all good. But the missing secret sauce there is your own authenticity and your own voice. So all of these tools are completely useless if you don't adapt them to yourself and you don't bring out your true personality, because the person in front of you is trying to understand who you are. And if you don't let them see that, then you're just reciting a script that you've learned back home. It's just never going to click. You're never going to connect, and they will feel confused because they'll just hear words. And I've been on the receiving end of that as well. So I really like how you're phrasing it as well, Faiza. It's really important to do a bit of research beforehand to know who you're talking to. But at the same time, you need to just walk in to a conversation, just be really active in listening and respond to the person in front of you. And just remember, you're talking to people. And I think that's becoming more and more important in the age of AI, where we're all talking to chatbots every day. It's just so important to really hone that human conversation skill, because ultimately people will support you if they believe in you as a person.
2 more points on that. Pfizer was in front of 3 of us. Now, again, can become intimidating, right? Because there's 3 of us looking. Now, the 2 ladies I work with are great, and they were major advocates. So that's very good. And they're warming to each other. But again, it's just human beings talking and being really, really honest. The other thing is, again, you said there's a role for every candidate. So what I was looking for that day doesn't mean they weren't great candidates. Mm-hmm. It's just I wasn't looking for that person, or they didn't really blow my mind in terms of made me remember them. But in terms of Pfizer, I knew immediately, because I know my partners, what they want, because my partners are constantly saying, I need like new business executives that have the pedigree that don't sound like new business people, but I need to get some new opportunities through. So I need people that can go and find those opportunities. And then when Pfizer came back to me on Monday morning with the stuff that I'd asked to do, I was like, yes, done.
It's her. We found her. Get her in.
Because that's the basics.
Chase her down the corridor.
That's the basics, right? That's what I expect from all of my employees, is to go off and do the basics.
Yeah.
Do your research, find out, come back to before I, ahead of time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's a saying that I really like, which is be yourself so your people can find you. So they know when they found you as well. So you can't really fake who you are. Faisal, I want to ask you another nuanced question there, just in terms of how you found moving here to the Middle East from the States and carving out a new career in tech as a young expat woman. I think there's a lot of opportunity here in the Middle East. There can also be challenges. So what has been your experience so far?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And the reason that I say that is because I was born and raised in the States, lived there up until I moved to the Middle East. And it is the complete opposite there when it comes to doing business, when it comes to networking. So essentially it's all about who you know, not what you know. Now, I agree and disagree with that a little bit because it is about what you know and what your experiences are. But more so here in the Middle East, it's about who you know. And I would always hear this saying, even in the States, I would hear people saying, oh, you're moving to Dubai and you don't know anyone. What are you going to do? And to be completely honest, I moved here and I knew 3 people. Not even in industry. It was just family friends that were living here.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit intimidating, to say the least. But I knew that when I moved here, I just had to put myself out there. I had to put myself out there and make these connections and grow my network, and that eventually it would continue to pay off. And being here, it's been about a year. So there have been challenges. There have been successes. It's definitely a wide range of like highs and lows. I will say that. Especially coming here as a woman in tech. Being a woman in tech, just in general, all over the world, it's, not very common. It's one of those things that's kind of like a minority. And so coming here and having that profession and really carving my way through it, it's not the easiest thing. There are definitely client meetings where I'm the only woman in the room and I'm surrounded by males, or lots of meetings too, where I'm in that same situation. And it's really just proving yourself as an individual and not even looking at the fact that I'm a woman and they're a man. At the end of the day, it's all about what you know and what you bring to the table and how you're bringing value to that.
I love that. What do you rely on, or what do you remind yourself of when you walk into a room and you're the only woman there and you're perhaps one of the youngest as well? Do you have something that you tell yourself to give it your best?
That's amazing, because I actually do. And what I always think to myself is that we're all human. No matter if I'm younger than them and they're older, or vice versa, or if I'm a woman and they're a man, I always remind myself, we've all come from different backgrounds and we're all sitting here in this room for a reason. Whether it's to do business, whether it's to have a meal together, or even just to grow your network, you're there for a reason. You've been invited to the room for a reason. So that's what I always just keep in the back of my head.
Awesome. I love that. And I always kind of share this, especially in regards to like interviews. When people are like, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, no one in that room wants you to fail.
Yeah.
You've been invited there for a reason. Absolutely. They want you to kind of present yourself in the best way and for you to really believe in what you can do, because they want to believe it too. And I think it kind of applies to the same in a networking context too. So thank you for sharing that. So just to kind of piggyback on the direction of the conversation, because there's a lot of people who are coming here to this region. I believe last week we hit the 4 million mark, which is amazing, in the UAE. So there's a lot of people coming here with the kind of vision of, kind of building a new life, and there's a lot of excitement around it. But in a lot of cases, they don't have a network. So if someone was to say, I don't have a network in this region, what advice would you give them to kind of go about it?
Yeah. And that's a really good question. And the reason that I say that is because here in Dubai, the opportunities are endless. You can meet someone at a coffee shop. You can meet someone over LinkedIn. So those are 2 very different things, for example. What I did when I first came here was just follow up and have conversations with every single person that I met, whether it was someone that I met while out at a restaurant, or it was someone that I met at the business school, or just at these conferences and events. It's always, to my point earlier, it's all about following up with those individuals.
Yeah, awesome. And what about you, Matthew, from a kind of business context? Because you've been in sales and business development and growth a really long time. So how would you kind of give advice to someone maybe looking to, if they've started in a business development role, like how would you encourage them to develop these kind of business leads?
Yeah. I'll tell you an interesting story, actually. When I joined Salesforce in 2018, they gave me the job of looking after South Africa. And I was like, awesome, I'll do it. And I flew to South Africa. I flew to Johannesburg and I got out of the plane and I obviously had the hotel booked, but that was it. I didn't know anybody. And I remember getting off the GO train in downtown Joburg and thinking, crikey, actually, for the first time in my life, I'm a confident person, but I was like, I actually don't know anyone here. I've got to meet these clients I've never met before. They don't know who I am. And I literally called some of my South African friends from London, and within 5 hours, they had a few friends and they took me around Johannesburg. So as an example, right? So again, you relied on your network that you had previously because there's always connections globally around the world. When I came here, so I've been managing this region for 7 years from London. So flying in from a week, flying back, etc., doing that for 7 years. And then last year, myself and Mukesh, who we run the partner network, we both moved here. So Salesforce opened up an office. We moved here. So I've been here now for 18 months, actually, 18 months. And again, same sort of thing sort of happened. I sort of checked into my apartment, and which I hadn't seen, when a friend did a video of my apartment, and I said, I'll take it.
Yeah,
and I opened the door.
That before.
Yeah, we've done it. And I opened up the door and I had literally all my belongings in one of those like the hotel trolley things. And I walked in and I was like, I actually don't really know anyone in Dubai.
Yeah. What am I doing here?
like, wow. And so for me, again, this is not for everyone. Sport is a big one. Okay, so golf, paddle, we were talking earlier. I like to swim, run, whatever. Actually, I don't like to run. That's a lie. I like to swim.
But you have to.
I hate running.
You have good intentions.
I actually hate running. I hate running. I like to walk, but not a run. But yeah, so sports are very good ones. So again, you go on the WhatsApp groups, you go to the sports. But in a business context, LinkedIn has been super powerful for me. So I used to use LinkedIn. I mean, I still do use LinkedIn a lot. And I would dive into the people that I wanted to speak to, and I would dive into what they were doing, etc. And I would look at their connections and their connections, and then I would sort of marry it up. So from a business point of view, LinkedIn is huge. And your colleagues, so we have Slack in our office. Yeah. We all use Slack, and Slack is amazing because again, you can sort of very quickly, instantaneously communicate with everybody, and then everyone knows everyone. You can see their profile, their org chart. So again, it's very easy for me to navigate around within the Salesforce capacity. But LinkedIn, phenomenal for me.
What is one thing about the regional job market, Pfizer, that you only discover once you're inside of it?
Yeah.
I guess it's that kind of perception versus reality, I think, as well, because I find that when you think of Dubai, there's a lot of kind of things that come to mind straight away. And it's all very shiny on the
Dubai
outside.
bling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? It's this concept of Dubai bling for sure. But then once you're in it and making that footprint and getting access is quite challenging, I find. And, we are kind of integral to helping students get access into rooms and finding access ourselves as well. And we're, like Matthew, like really diligently going in, investigating, seeing how these people are a good fit. But I think, what was your kind of biggest observation, I guess, from seeing at it from a Dubai bling perspective and then being inside of it?
My biggest observation is that everything happens in person, face to face here. I learned that very quickly, coming from a background of doing Zoom meetings and pretty much even conferences virtually, kind of because of COVID as well. I was almost in culture shock. I moved here, and within like the first or second week, I was going to Salesforce in person. I was visiting with clients in person, and they prefer that. Even interviews, they're all done in person. Actually, my interviews for Clouds Lab as well, I was invited for one coffee after coffee after coffee. And it was all done in person. Nothing was really done over Zoom. And occasionally, you'll have a phone call because that's a little bit easier and quicker.
Yeah. Because you met Nada, didn't you? You met the CEO.
I did. So my first interaction, I went and met with Sameh. And then from there, he actually, we were sitting at a cafe and he was like, I want to bring in Samer. And so he just actually stepped out and brought him in within 10 minutes and we had a coffee and then eventually met with Nada as well.
Yeah. So Clouds Lab, actually, we should do a shout out for Clouds Lab because they are one of our top performing partners for the last 10 years. They just celebrated 10 years anniversary. Nada, I met 6 years, when I first got to the region 7 years ago, and I met him in Cairo. He lives in Cairo, in New Cairo. And I met him at the JW Marriott and we went for dinner. And he said to me in that dinner, he said, I will be your number one partner in the next 2 years or 3 years, whatever it was. And he has been ever since.
Amazing.
Phenomenal. So Clouds Lab are really doing very well for us. Yeah.
Yeah. No, amazing shout out.
And I think this concept of like doing things in person, I really like that because I think you can build relationships so much more easier than you could if it was through the screen. And I think then this concept of like, especially with like the incoming generation, like they like to have the safety of the screen or like, just on your phone behind, like, I don't want to call them keyboard warriors, but like it just gives you a bit of like a little bit of safety, right? Yeah. And I think there's something to like actually kind of bringing your whole self into something and connecting in person because there's so much more things that you can read in terms of like the body language, in terms of humor and all these things. I think it just goes like such a long way.
Yeah. Huge.
And you should take yourself out your comfort zone really to like push yourself to do this. One of our biggest things when students join us at the beginning of the year, one of the biggest things we say is get yourself off campus as much as you possibly can. And they're like, I can't, I've got a class, I've got this, I've got that. And it's like, you have to prioritize it because it's not happening here, it's happening out there. And this city, there's something happening as soon as October hits.
Yes.
There's something happening every week, twice a week.
I would say September this year.
It's already started. And the weather's not a deterrent anymore. And I think like there's a lot of opportunity there for you to tap into should you be ready to do it. And I think like even outside of the business setting, social groups. I've got there's an alum, Jana, who told me once that she was in the playground with her kids and she'd just finished the MBA at that point, and then she was just talking to another dad who was in the playground who worked at Deloitte, and then they were just having a conversation and next thing you know she's got an interview at Deloitte from just kind of connecting in the playground. So these connections can happen anywhere at any time, and I think you just kind of have to have that kind of mindset to just go for it. So I think it's really important.
I think it's also very important to keep in mind to always be ready whenever you leave your front door. True. You never know who you're going to run into, whether it has to be someone who's related to you or someone who you have a connection with, like you and Matthew, for example. But you always just have to be prepared for any interaction the moment that you leave your door.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I met Matthew through 3 different connections, through someone that I knew in London at Hult 7 years ago, who introduced me to Christina, who introduced me to Matthew. So I think this is how it works. And also just a bit of background on Dubai for anyone who's maybe new to the city. This city is full of very senior, very influential people. And a lot of the time, because we're talking about Dubai Bling, a lot of the time when people say Dubai, everyone thinks of the crypto millionaires and whatever. But it's not, I mean, yes, they are here as well. But also if you look at the professional world, a lot of the people that make it to Dubai are 10 to 20 years into their careers. They are managers, directors, VPs, senior people who are here and who have a lot of influence. So what Faiza just said, just be prepared the moment you leave the door, really, is very true. You go to the coffee shop, if you look around you and you see 5 people working on their laptop, you can tell for sure those people are having some important conversations. They're they're probably moving millions as you speak, as you're waiting in line for your coffee. It is that kind of place, and the opportunity is everywhere, but people need to get themselves out there. If you were to give someone at the beginning of their career, just one piece of advice as to how and why they should leave the screens and go out into the real world to network, what would that be?
For me, it's people by people. I use it's an analogy I've always had. People by people. It is people. Now we're in the tech business, and we talk in acronyms all day long, and it blows my mind sometimes the amount of new developments we have in Salesforce is insane. And we learn on our Trailhead University, which is free for all the employees. So you learn on Trailhead, I learn on Trailhead. We're all learning on Trailhead. Okay. But it's actually the people. So going back a stage as well, our office, we moved into our office in October last year. So we're coming up for a year. And I love people, right? I love the sort of interaction with different people. I love hearing different voices, different languages, when you're in a coffee shop or whatever. But it's a tough market as well. This is a tough market. Yeah. It's highly competitive. It's cost-centric as well. So people think everyone's got multi-millions, and they have, but they don't spend it loads on software, etc. We're running behind the rest of the world, America, in terms of adoption. Okay, not behind in any other way, but just the adoption rate of things. So, for example, if you go into a business and they're still using spreadsheets, for example, and that'd be quite normal for them. Yeah. Like 10 years ago, that would have been the same in America, and it's moved on. So we have to educate a new audience, and that audience has got money to spend, but they want to spend it wisely. So the people that think they can come into this market very quickly and do it very and take that revenue, they're wrong. And I've seen it with my own eyes for 7 years. We're very fortunate that we have a direct sales force that go and speak directly to the customer. So we contract directly with the customer, but it's the partners, it's the Cloud Labs and the Coburgs and the Connexes, etc. of the world that go and implement it for us. And these people have a really tough job, because you're taking a real premium product that the customer has bought, and they want it to be absolutely everything to them day one. So that's the job of the partner network, and that's the area that I look after. It's very, very difficult. So it's people. So if you go in and you really understand the challenges of that person that you're talking to, and I say the 3 E's, you have the energy in the morning to wake up and go for it. You need the enthusiasm, which is infectious, talking about the product that you're doing or talking about the industry that they're in. If you're talking to a real estate person, you understand why they've had the challenges that they have. You're enthusiastic about Salesforce, how it can alleviate those problems, and the empathy to put yourself in their shoes. So the 3 E's, and that's not my one, that's Jack Welch's from GE, but that's something I learned very early on, and it applies to me, and it applies to the very best people that I've met in my working career. They generally have those 3 things.
I love that. And we were talking recently about our first jobs.
Yeah.
And we were saying that your first job kind of teaches you a lot of these kind of softer skills that you kind of hone in, that kind of stay with you forever. So, for example, my first job was in retail. I used to work at Topshop, and it was like one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. But working in retail, working in restaurants.
So you're a people person.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just being exposed to people day in, day out, speaking, having that interaction, being able to kind of connect with them. Obviously, you're in the service sector, so you have to provide a service and a good service. So all these kind of things really kind of condition you to be able to connect with people. Just wondered, I was looking at your profile as well, and I went all the way back. And I saw that you also started your career in for a retail company, right?
I was a graduate manager at Clark Shoes.
Which is fantastic. And I just think
I love Clark Shoes. Free ad. They're comfortable.
But I think there's something in that, because I think that foundation that you built there probably has stayed with you for your whole career, probably.
Do you know what? That taught me about hard work, because I thought, I left university, and every student that leaves university, their first job is a wake-up call, isn't it? It's like reality check. It's like, I'm going to be amazing, and then all of a sudden you're doing some really menial job, and you've got to work your way up. And they sent me to London, and they sent me to the biggest shop in London, which was the Clark Shoe on Oxford Street.
And
And so my day was getting to Oxford, and it was super cool. It was actually super cool to be in Oxford Street. I thought it was amazing. And it was like, this is super cool. And then I was fitting old ladies' feet all day. Because as a manager, you have to do everything, right?
Yeah.
And I would go for lunch and I go, I don't know what's happening. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but then the interesting factor was the international clientele that was coming through the shop. And Clark's was a very prestigious name to a lot globally. It's a big name. I grew up in Somerset, which is where Clark's is from.
Wow.
So Clark's for me was like the local employer. But I realized that to a French person or to someone from around the world, that it was a big deal, Clark's shoes. And so I tapped into that. So the bit I didn't like, which was the fitting of shoes and tidying up and hoovering and doing all the sort of things you've got to do as you start. I just ignored those bits and just worked hard on the relationships. And then what you had is you had repeat customers. And then they would tell their family and friends. And all of a sudden, within a few months, you've got all these repeat customers coming in. It was marvelous.
There you go. Build a network.
Yeah. You built your network that far.
I did. But there were days I almost wanted to cry.
Yeah.
I was like, how is this? I was destined for more than this. Come on.
Same.
Yeah.
I think we all have that experience. Yeah, for sure. My first job was in recruitment. It was in an agency and it was the other side of town. I was also living in London. So I had to wake up at 6:15 every day to catch the train from Clapham. People who we all lived in London, so you'll know, from Clapham Junction to Shoreditch. And then I had to walk a little bit to Liverpool Street. That was the office. So that was, now think of it, 12 years ago. The trains were packed. It was just really
a train
difficult.
from Clapham is packed.
Absolutely
You have
packed.
to let 2 or 3 go in the
It already
morning.
leaves packed. I don't even know how that happened. But the thing is, the silver lining is I read a lot of books. I worked there for 9 months.
Yeah.
I think I read a book a month or something like that because I had 45 minutes each way where I could just read, and that was my escape from the noise and everything that was happening around me. But I was exactly like you. I was just doing the menial work, helping the other consultants to secure their candidates. I was reading hundreds of CVs a day, and I was like, oh, is this why I'm into uni?
Yeah.
But we all start somewhere, and it built a lot of skill for me. Now looking back, I realized where my passion for recruitment and helping students, where that comes from. It really comes from that first job. But I had to deal with those first 9 months or so.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, when it comes to that first job, in my opinion, it kind of sets that foundation for you. Yeah. It kind of teaches you what a first job even is and what you have to do to really work your way up. And like you mentioned, it is kind of a reality check because you're in your first job and you're thinking, wow, okay, do I want to do this or do I want to continue striving for more and more? Mm-hmm. And I've always told myself that no matter what I learn while in business school or even in undergrad, I won't really understand it until I'm applying it. And so when it comes to that, I can only think back to my first job. I can think back and be like, I was in that process of applying to everything that I had just learned while doing my bachelor's degree. And that's why I was like making these silly mistakes or little things like that. And so it's really important to just dive off of that foundation and continue to work your way up.
What was your first job?
My first job, I was a sales strategist in the manufacturing industry. That was actually quite fun because I was also doing a lot of sales strategy, which I personally enjoyed doing. It was client facing as well. Yeah. But the industry was definitely not my forte. I knew nothing about it. And eventually just found my way into technology.
And here you are today.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of ties us quite nicely to our last question. So as non-technical people in the kind of programming sense, how do you succeed in a tech world? Especially with all the advancements.
I would say...
Your fresh lens, fresh eyes. So you go.
So the reason that I think about this is because I have told Nader, my CEO, and I've told my current manager, Rami, both that I want to continue to focus on that technical side. And I really want to get a better understanding of it because I don't know how to code. I don't know anything about programming. And that is kind of like where we're moving to as a society when it comes to our future, when it comes to AI. And so I would say from my perspective, and I think this applies to you as well, it's more about the relationship building side. So we're not sitting behind a desk. We're not, solving technical requirements and we're not coding, but then that relationship side is also just as important. But with that, I mean, I would personally like to expand on my technical knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, we are, the tech, as I said before, it blows your mind. It's constant. Okay. I've just literally studied over the weekend on Trailhead to sort of learn about Agentforce, our latest offering. And we have to build, the Agentforce, and it took twice as long as we all expected it to take. Right. Yeah. And you've really got to go through the step by steps. And it's not really what I love to do, but I need to do is I want to understand it. Yeah. Okay. And actually, once you've done it, it's actually not that hard afterwards. So at first you know, wow, and then it's not that hard. So we have 3 releases of software every year, and how we get told to learn is on Trailhead. Mm-hmm. So whether it's you learning Trailhead or I'm learning Trailhead, it's the same mechanism. Okay,
and it's the same content for.
It's the same content. So example being, so I said to Pfizer, I said, look, go on Trailhead, start learning about Salesforce, learn about Salesforce, learn about sales, learn about any industries you want to do. And Pfizer or any of you could log on and learn exactly what I just learned on Agentforce at the weekend, right? That's the beauty of it. It's free. So when you download Trailhead on your phone or your PC or a laptop, whatever, you put your private email address in. When you get a job, you can transfer your knowledge. So Pfizer will keep that knowledge. That's her knowledge forever. Okay. When I got the interview at Salesforce, I spent a week on Trailhead learning Trailhead, so that when I presented as part of my presentation panel, they were like, wow, you know a lot about Salesforce. And I didn't know a lot about Salesforce, but I just learned it over that week. Mm-hmm. It's fresh in my brain and I could reel it off in the panel. And so my point is, we learn from learning, and we have a motto again, always be learning. Yeah. Always be like, you're learning all the time. I love Trailhead because it's actually gamification. You learn something, you watch a video, you read some scripts. They may take you off to different places. You come back, you answer 3 or 4 questions. If you get it right first time, you get 100 points. If you get it right second time, you get 50, and then it goes down to 25. And those points go up, and you go through you basically try to be a ranger. Okay. So I'm a ranger now, and that's taken me sort of like however many thousand hours.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But now my bosses are like, well, let's be a double ranger. Let's be a triple ranger. I'm like, wow. Okay. So I don't necessarily love studying, but I love that way of learning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's how I learn all the time.
No, that's fantastic. I think this concept of continuously, I think we all have to kind of do this now in the age of AI. And there's something about it, isn't it? Even if you are a natural people person, I would say probably I'm in your category. Yes. I don't love studying. You know, I'm doing an MBA at the moment, but I really have to kind of push myself because my default is to lean into all those skills and qualities that I know I'm good at. It's easy for me, it comes naturally to me. But when you have to really push yourself in the opposite direction, it's not the easiest thing, but it pays off tenfold. And I think you have to now, I think anyone who wants to kind of succeed, especially in this market, if you're not a continuous learner, you are going to fall behind. Yes. And then this market takes no prisoners, right?
Yes.
You will just be left behind. I think this is why we complement each other, because you love to read and
I'm the nerd.
Yeah, you're the nerd. Whereas I'm all about the fun and the party planning.
It works. It works.
The perfect duo.
But here's the news flash as well. So I'm the people person, and people and all through my career, people would try and say, well, you need to do that analytical bit more. And don't get me wrong, Salesforce do that, but they celebrate your strengths. So they go, okay, well, you're really good with relationship building. You understand it. You've come from a career where you've had a partner, so you understand it from all angles. So utilize that. You are the people person, but you've got to do the analytical too. So just make sure you keep up. And with Trailhead and learning, you keep up with it. And even though it's not like I jump out of bed and want to do it, but when I do it, I go, oh, this is actually really interesting. So I do it. And I've raised it, but they celebrate the strengths. And I would honestly say that's so crucial for any employer or any work environment to, if you are that people person, celebrate it. And also, make it aware that you've got to keep coming up through this area, but it's never going to be your strong area. Never. Mandy, it's never going to be your strong area. It's never going to be my area. I'm sort of 53 this month, right? It's not going to be my strong area. But as long as I'm doing that alongside the bit that I am very good at, and the business rewards me for that and celebrates that, I've loved it. And this is why I'm so motivated with Salesforce for the last 8 years.
I like that. Incremental
Love
learning.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
What sort of person are you? Would you say, are you analytical?
I would say.
Are you a people person? Are you a mixture of two?
So actually, someone recently had this conversation with me just last week. It was a professor, and he was like, "Have you taken the DISC assessment?"
Yeah, DISC.
I was
That's right.
like,
Yes,
I
did,
did, but I want to hear from your point of view. What do you think I am? And he was like, I think you're dominant and influential.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're totally right.
I agree. Yeah.
That's you.
That's me as well.
Really? Maybe that's why we get along so well. But yeah, no, definitely. I would say dominant in like a good sense, in the sense that like I'll take charge if I need to, but then I'll also give some leeway, like I'll take charge when I need to. And when it comes to the influential side, actually it's funny because my manager Rami told me this last week as well. He was like, it's just the way that you speak and like the tone that you use. It's in a very understanding tone, to the point where when you are telling someone something, it's not like, you're like really asking them or like forcing them. It's like in a very influential tone.
Well, I have one final thought before we wrap up, which is about invisible champions, because this is what this conversation was about today, really. I think we talked a lot about networking, but what we all said is that when you're out there, you need someone, or to have the best chances, you need someone to advocate for you, and that is your champion. So I wanted to ask you both really quickly, who's your biggest champion right now, and how are you paying it forward to others? And while you're thinking about that, I want to launch this question to our audience as well. Just pause for a second and ask yourself, who's always in your corner, who's got your back in business? Obviously, you have your family and friends, but in the business world, in your career, who's there for you? And who are you there for as well? Because that's very important. It's a cycle.
Yeah. So I guess there are two different ways to look at it. There's the business side and then the personal side. And to be honest, from the business side, I can only just say thank you to everyone that I've really spoken with, because I can't pick just one champion. I mean, there's Matthew, there's Bianca, there's Mandy. You guys have all helped me tremendously. So it's very difficult for me to pick just one. I mean, there's people within Clouds Lab that have helped me a lot, within Hult, and just people that I've met elsewhere as well at conferences and events. But on a personal side, I can pick someone, and that would be my mother. So from day one, when I told her that I was moving to Dubai, she's always supported me no matter what. She never had any hesitations about me moving here. She knew that I wanted to move here to really just focus on my career. And actually, to this day, she calls me every morning on her way to work. No matter what time of day I call her, she'll answer and like have a conversation with me, whether it has to do with like personal circumstances or even professional circumstances. So that would be mine.
Amazing.
Fabulous. That's it. Well, I want to put a shout out actually to Christina Craver, because if it wasn't for
She's
Christina,
incredible.
I would have met you two, and then the whole story wouldn't have happened. So thank you, Christina, wherever you are and whenever you're watching this. This all came about, by the way, because after COVID, I basically met an alumni, one of my partners from Rochester, so a fellow university, and they said, "Oh, would you like to come and speak at that university?" And that became like one speaking engagement. And now we're sort of 4 years later, and we're working with sort of over 20 universities across 6 countries. We've got loads and loads of students that we've met that have gone into internships and then into full-time positions. And like the podcast going full circle, the podcast today is because we're celebrating the story of that exact story. So that's fantastic. Work capacity, loads to mention. And if anyone of them watching this, thank you very much. They know who they are. In this capacity in Salesforce, there was a lady called Gemma Byrne, and she actually runs the alliances and channels for the UK and Ireland. And actually, she was promoted recently to an EMEA role. And on the very first business trip I did, I went to Ireland, which is our sort of European HQ. And I went there, and just because of the contacts of my boss was friends with her, so they said, "Oh, Gemma's going the same, why don't you get the same flight as Gemma?" Okay, so I flew to Ireland with Gemma, and I just listened to her, and she was such a people person, and so excited about Salesforce. And she invited me to her team's drinks that night. And from then on, she's been a great ally of mine and mentor. She's my mentor, so I have a call with her every month. I was in London last month. I went to see her. She's that woman that is just very, very good, very, very grounded. Gives me some tough love when I need it. But I think it also works back. So I always, when we start the call, what she is that she's mentoring me, but I always start the call saying, can I do anything for you first? Like, how are you? How can I help? And that is a mantra that I think that everyone should have. Is like, how can I help you to starting the conversation? And some people think it's a bit twee here and there, but actually, if you go into that, most conversations or most interactions go, how can I help? Like, what do you need? What do you need? What's important to you? It really does change the needle in terms of your relationships and what you can get done.
That's
so
fantastic.
Gemma Byrne for me in the work capacity.
And thank you guys for sharing that, especially like ending on a high like this where you kind of left people maybe with some food for thought. We really appreciate that, and everyone can probably use that in some capacity. Yeah. So thank you both for your time today. It's been a really cool conversation, and I think there's a lot there that people can, like I said, really use, and we hope that they do and become expert networkers here in the region. That's our wish to our audience. So thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and watch more of our episodes on our YouTube channel and Instagram, and we'll see you next time on the next episode for Those Made to Do.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning into the For Those Made to Do podcast. We are your hosts, Mandy Sahota
and Bianca Pavel. This podcast is all about the doers who have achieved career success in the UAE and the stories that go with it.